I took my hot rod out for a cruise the other day. When I came back home, I noticed a little bit of water leaking from the radiator. I looked at it and determined it was actually coming from the radiator, but I didn't know where. This radiator is a perfect fit for the 32 Ford grill shell that I have. The overall measurements are 27.5 by 19.5, and you see it fits in there nicely, and the radiator shell, it has the tabs on it for the radiator shell to bolt up to. I went online to see if I could find an all aluminum replacement radiator. All of the replacement 32 Ford radiators that I find, the measurements don't match the measurements of this particular radiator. Some of them are 2 inches shorter and some of them are a lot shorter than that. Therefore, cars that have had the grill shell chopped. I found one that says it's the same measurement as this radiator. It's a 27.5 by 19.5, and it has all the necessary fittings on it. Except in the description, it claims to be for a chopped grill shell. So I'm a little bit leery of buying that one and then getting it and finding out the measurements aren't exactly what they claim to be online. If I buy one that's too short for the grill shell, I would have to raise the radiator so that the top of the radiator would come up into the top of the grill shell. But then the bottom of the radiator would be up too high, and then the outlet would not clear the fan blade. The outlet hose has to come underneath the fan blade and then up into the port. So I think this radiator, I'll do some research on this radiator and see if it's suitable to get this one repaired and reuse it. So I pulled the radiator out, took the grill shell out, pulled the radiator out, and now what I've got to do is find that leak in the radiator. I will pressurize it, soap test it, and see what I can find. I'm going to cap off the inlet and the outlet with a couple of rubber plugs. This one has a valve in the end of it so I can put air on the tank, pressurize it. I've got about 10 pounds of pressure coming out of this hose. I don't hear anything at the bottom, but I do hear some hissing up here. I don't see any bubbles though. Maybe it's on the other side. I don't see any bubbles, but I can hear the hissing right through here. And when I put my finger on the tubes, it changes the tone. So I think it's these rods right through here are leaking. I have this optical inspection camera. I'm going to send it down inside the radiator tanks and see what the tubing, what the core looks like. The image on my inspection camera is a lot clearer than the image I can show you with my video camera. But it all looks pretty clean in there, so I think probably this is a good candidate for repair. Now all I have to do is find a good local radiator shop. While I'm waiting on the radiator to be repaired, I think I will back flush the block. It'll be easy to do that right now while the whole front of the car is wide open. I took a hole saw and cut this disc out of about a 3/4 inch thick piece of plastic. Drilled a hole in it, and what I'm going to do is take this quick connect garden hose fitting and JB weld it into here. Then what I'll do is screw this onto my garden hose, push this into the top radiator hose, and then back flush the engine block. I took the thermostat out, of course. This wouldn't work otherwise. I caught the first couple of panfuls because that still had a decent quantity of antifreeze in it. I didn't want that going out on the ground. Now it's just rusty water. As you can see, my antifreeze is green. That's running pretty clear now, so I'll call it. After talking to 2 local radiator shops, I found out that to repair this radiator, it was going to cost a minimum of $220, and it could go above $300 depending on what they had to do to repair it. I found this one online for $233 delivered. This one comes from Alloy Works. There's lots of YouTubers who have done unboxing and reviews on Alloy Works radiators. So if you want to know more about them, just do a search on YouTube about Alloy Works. You'll find what you need. While these have the same basic measurements, there's something about the design and shape that doesn't quite make the new one fit as perfect as the old one does. You can see how the shell fits tightly around the old radiator, which was probably custom made for this shell. You see how this tank here is more rounded and fits more neatly into the radiator shell than this triangular shaped one. For some reason, this triangular shaped one here is slightly higher on this edge here, and that holds the radiator shell up higher. It doesn't allow it to sink down tightly against the radiator. If the core were a 1/2 inch shorter, this edge here would drop down a 1/2 inch, and I think it would fit tightly against the radiator shell. The core on the old one is 4 inches wide. The tank is 5 inches wide, so the core is shifted towards the front of the tank. On the new one, the core is the same, the sides are the same, the core is shifted to the back of the tank. Really, that doesn't make a difference. It just brings the radiator core closer to the fan, which is fine. This extension here creates a shroud that fits up inside the radiator shell, and that forces the air through the radiator. The shroud, however, used to come straight up here, and it interfered with the shell fitting on because the shell rolled this way and the shroud stuck out. So what I had to do was grind this down. I thought grinding it down would make it fit a lot tighter, and it did bring it up close, but it's not perfect. This radiator would probably fit a steel grill shell perfectly. Steel is 18 gauge, and that's only about 4/100ths of an inch thick. Mine's a fiberglass shell, and it's 3/8 inches thick, even 1/2 inch thick in some spots. That makes the inside measurement of the fiberglass shell is about a 1/2 inch smaller than a steel shell. I painted white paint inside the radiator shell and then fit it to the radiator. The white paint scratched at the contact points, and then I went back in and ground down the radiator shell to about 1/4 inch thickness to allow the shell to fit tighter against the radiator. That tape and dots mark the spot where the radiator comes in contact on the inside of the shell. So I'll measure this. And it measures 18 inches. The inside measurement from the same points measures slightly more than 17 inches. And these are the spots that I've already ground down some. I ground them down about a 1/4 inch. If this were a metal shell, the material wouldn't be as thick, and it would probably measure about 17.5 across here. And that makes a big difference in the way this radiator fits inside the shell. Well, here it is, all complete. I've got it all back together. I managed to make it fit up in that grill shell pretty well. This is an aluminum radiator, so it's shiny, bright core. I painted the front of it black because I didn't want the shiny, bright core shining through the grill. While I had it off, I took the grill and shell apart, polished the grill, and took the opportunity to repaint the grill shell. I used one of those 2K rattle can paints that I found on the internet. It's called Hot Rod Black. Because the original radiator, these brackets were at an angle, these rods didn't come in at the proper angle, so what I had to do is heat them up and rebend them. I've already given it a test drive. Everything's tight, no leaks. So I guess that wraps this project up. Thank you.